you ever gave up hope, looking for a way to cope, all alone in a castle by yourself, knowing you were made to rule, looking like a royal fool, if you only had someone to help. Here's what I propose we do. I'm gonna count on you, give you all the cheese that you could ever want. If you wanna be your best, put your trap up to the test, buy some Super Brie and watch the suckers come. Ever gave up hope, looking for a way to cope, all alone in a castle by yourself. Have you ever gave up hope, looking for a way to cope?
Hello, MouseHunt. Hello, welcome to Feedback Friday. Today is, what is the day today? It is March 13th, Friday the 13th. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Hello, 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 everyone. Brian, KDM, Steven, Jaren, Yushira. Hello, hello. Well, today, wanted to go over the 12th birthday event now that hunters have had a chance to play it, collect some feedback perhaps on the various updates and changes that we made this year based on the feedback we got in 2019, so we can put together some notes and stash those away for the 2020 or 2021. This is tempting. I'm always bad with dates, times, and years, so I'm saying a lot of years in here. I'm tempting myself to make a mistake, but file that away for the 2021 event. Hamandi says, good morning, Dave. It is 2300 here. It's getting late for you then. Well, good evening indeed. Steven needs 2 more tickets. Please don't end the event yet. Well, that's a good segue into letting you know when the event ends. So it was in the original news post that we put up about the birthday, and it said it would come to an end on Tuesday, March 24. We're extending that by 1 day, actually. Now the event's going to end on Wednesday, March 25. I put up a news ticker to that effect. I also updated the original news post, edited it to scratch out the 24 and put a 25, so just in case anyone goes back to double check the news post, hopefully there'll be no misinformation spreading. I'll make a note, actually I just realized, just entered my stream of consciousness, that I need to change some of the scheduled Facebook wall posts as well, so I'll make a note before I forget. Otherwise, it will say the event is ending on Tuesday when it is Wednesday, because we tend to schedule those all well in advance. So what we're looking for feedback on is the 12th birthday event. So obviously it's still going on, still going to be going on for a little while as well. But wanted to get some feedback on the various updates we made. I know kind of last year, there was some kind of mixed feedback. Some things were good, some things could have been better, so we did our best to try to address those feedback. But the plan, at the moment anyways, is to repeat the event in 2021, so we're interested in hunters' feedback. Made a bunch of updates, so there's the reward crate starting off as 100% Super Brie. More Super Brie in the crate as you upgrade the mixing room, so just in general, the event gave out more Super Brie than last year. The QA room rewarding empowered Super Brie. Slowly converting a percentage of it from regular Super Brie into empowered. The break room adding various bonus cheese to reward crate. That's probably one of the biggest changes to the reward structure. The factory repair charms adding the plus 10 liters pump. Try to give them use after you've upgraded the factory. New tiers of party charms and the rare birthday chest grant double anniversary aura was probably some of the larger changes that we made. Terry says, I love the cheese we get from the break room. Analysis says, why are you at the office? Stay safe. Well, I'm definitely going through life with a dose of caution at the moment for sure. KDM says, adding Onyx, Gorgonzola, and Rumble in the epic slots is a crime. Oh dear. Ben says, Dave, is the break room cheese slots rank appropriate? Yeah, we definitely had lots of discussion around that. Ultimately, we ended up leaving it open, and then any cheese we weren't comfortable with kind of getting at different ranks we left out. But we primarily tried to use the rate or the rarity of all those cheese and tried to kind of keep that in line with the rate at which you could collect them otherwise and not kind of exceed sort of double or triple. So with that in mind, let's take diamond cheese for example. If you went to the Fungal Cavern and the 3 weeks, instead of at the birthday event, you just parked in the Fungal Cavern, you'd end up with diamond cheese at the end of that, and if you didn't use that diamond cheese, now you get a little bit more if you spend those weeks at the birthday event. So we just try to make that a measure of time and effort more than always rank, but it kind of depends. It's a little subjective, I guess. Steven says, March 25, I'm guaranteed to get it. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, no worries. From the get-go, I think we planned 3 weeks for the event. And definitely one of the things we were looking to hit, and you can let us know if we kind of nailed that theme, was a little bit more of a relaxed event, if I can call it that. Nothing too time sensitive, and just kind of a nice opportunity to visit the Super Brie factory, earn some Super Brie for free, kind of celebrate the game's anniversary by earning some Super Brie. And hopefully we kind of hit that mark where it didn't feel like, oh, I got to make sure I get all these different rewards, or if you're worried that you might not have enough time to do everything. Definitely wanted something where there's more than enough time to achieve all the goals, and the focus being more about earning some super brie. Analysis says hard to attract mice with brie. Well, definitely brie will fail to attract here and there. You could, if you have access to Gouda, that might attract the mice a little bit more often. Or hey, when you get to the crate, you're getting some free super brie. So if you want to put that into the mix every now and then. Hamendi says the game needs a new event. Well, right now we are trying to shift gears. We're working on the spring egg hunt, and then we are shifting gears a little bit to try to work on some new content, new expansions, and new permanent adventures in the game. Tarako says, as KDM said, Onyx Gorgonzola is not epic. Well, that was kind of, I guess, the terms are a little bit subjective, but that was part of our approach as well, is to not make it a complete flood of super, super valuable cheese. There needs to be cheese in there that is less valuable, or I don't know if the alternative would be you get nothing in that slot, or reduce the quantities across the board, but that's kind of what we ended up going with, is adds some. Definitely when you put all the cheese side by side, some is better than others, but I mean that's kind of always going to be the case. But that's how we tried to sort of dilute the rarity a little bit to try to keep things in line with the effort that you put in at the area if you're going to go collect that cheese normally. Brian says, would be nice if the anniversary aura rewarded normal party charms too, how the winter had snowball and spooky had wealth. That's interesting. A way to kind of get party charms outside the event. Jonathan says, I rather enjoy the 12th birthday event, have completed it long ago. I'm now busy trying to silver the Fête Fromageur. Yeah, that's a good little side goal, which I should make. Well, I too wrap things up, and I finally finished my entire backlog of Grave Blossom cheese. And so now I am ready for the next step in the living garden here. I think I have over 2,000 of the Lunaria petals and the Dream Fluff herbs. I want to say that's the name of the other one. But yeah, I too kind of took a little side trip. I left the Super Brie factory. Jonathan says, I agree, but some of the cheese in the epic tier is just, well, not epic. Yeah, I guess maybe we could have tried to rename that a little bit. It was kind of tough to find words that were just appropriate. We ended up going with kind of like almost like we didn't want to use rare, common, uncommon, because it wasn't really a measure of quality. It's almost kind of more the tiers of progression in areas. So you can kind of think the pagoda, although to a high level player, rumble cheese isn't very epic. To someone that's sort of at that spot, the rumble cheese is the best cheese you can get for the area. So that was kind of how that got broken down, is where it lies in the sort of hierarchy of cheese. And again, a little bit subjective as well in terms of even if something was sort of to catch a final boss mouse, if you can put it in that way. If it wasn't particularly a lengthy endeavor to get, we might downgrade it one slot. Gene says, just curious, how come the 12th birthday event was extended for one more day, and why just one? Actually, we're going to for the short term, actually, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and some of the releases will be on Wednesdays. So we're going to be kind of working remotely a little bit more at the office. So with that change in routine, we're going to kind of shift some of our routines to release on Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. Kind of Tuesdays came to be because there's sort of a rule across all software, not just the games industry, that Friday releases are usually a bad idea because everyone's off for 2 days. So just in case something goes wrong, nobody wants to work on the weekend, or somebody might be unavailable on the weekend, so Fridays don't work. Mondays too, always kind of stuff, there's always these loose ends, and so it's just kind of nice to have that one day to tie up any loose ends. And that's kind of what led to Mondays working well. I mean, for years we've worked from home on Thursdays, so that, we'd all like to kind of be in the office together in case anything goes wrong. So that's got a little etymology of how Tuesdays became our regular routine. But for the short term anyway, we might shift to a Wednesday release routine. Swift says, without the old break room, Colby is harder to come by. That was intentional, kind of some of the feedback, and when we looked at sort of the flow of resources in the 2019 event, Colby was much too abundant, and so we increased the drop rate of it a little bit, but we reduced how much you passively collect, or kind of the ability to collect Coggy Colby while you're using Coggy Colby, just to kind of shift that resource and make it more in line with kind of how the other areas work. Because by the end of it, a lot of hunters were getting it faster than they could use it, which kind of led to some mixed feedback of like, can I do something else with this cheese? I want to smash it into something else. It didn't feel valuable anymore. So it's a bit of a balance act, but we want all the resources to feel valuable in their own way, or feel like they're useful. You always have a use for them as best we can. I just realized I have scrolled up in the chat. I thought it was rather quiet. I must have scrolled up and it wasn't following me. Okay, where was I now? Whoa, I was scrolled way up. Ben says break room needs to go back to how it was last year. Okay, interesting. Please add level 6 or 7. Epson says, thank you for making Gallian Goody an option for Epic Cheese. I was planning to get the Shelter Egg this year. Definitely, that is probably one of the most rare cheeses in the Epic slot. So I don't think you may not collect a whole lot, but you may get one. Karen says, the break room is fabulous. HN says, my biggest concern is whether you are all safe at your place. Yeah, definitely, we're doing the best we can. Mark says, how comes the Forgotten Art of Dance weapon doesn't have the party bonus with party charms when the weapon is only available birthdays? I'll jot that down. Forgotten Art of Dance needs the birthday bonus. Yeah, definitely any birthday themed traps are meant to have the bonus, so if you happen to find one that we missed, did the best we could, but one or two may have slipped through the cracks. Does Empowered Super Bee work for potions or other Super Bee specific crafting? Yes, anything you can use Magic Essence for, you can smash your Empowered Super Bee and you get Magic Essence, just like you would when you get Smashed Super Bee. So you can use that for crafting purposes. Now for potions that need Super Bee, you can smash your Empowered Super Bee, get some curds and whey from the shop, and then you can create Super Bee from Magic Essence using crafting, and then you could use it for your potions that way. Yushiro says maybe adding a new room for Colby drop. Yeah, some way. I think kind of the problem in 2019 is you didn't have to actively make the choice to switch from, okay, now I want to collect more resource, and then you make a choice, or you do something, you change your setup, and now I'm consuming that resource. And I think that kind of just mechanically didn't work too well. So that's an interesting idea. I think that might raise some other problems with maps or something like that, where if there's a particular room where you spend a disproportionate amount of your time, and that might create some different problems. QA room is kind of redundant. Maybe it could become the old break room for next year. Again, I think that'll feed into the problem we had in 2019 of collecting Colby while you use Colby. Means that the base drop rate has to be really low, and it felt very weird. At the beginning of the event, it was really hard to come by, and then by the end of it, you just had way too much of it. So it was just kind of you almost want it's just a weird pacing where off the bat you feel, I can't even make any progress, and then by the end it's like, well, I don't even want this stuff, I have so much. For sure though, we'd open to kind of different suggestions for the QA room. It's probably the least popular room, kind of the most niche. Param says, hello Dave. Hello Param. Swift says, oh, already read that. Jonathan says, Empowered Super Bee is in fact worse than normal Super Bee because in most cases where you'd actually be wanting to hunt with Super Bee, you simply don't need the power bonus. Yeah, for sure, that said, you can sell it on the market. And actually, this would be interesting to see some of the price of it. Actually, yeah, it has dipped below Super Bee now, so definitely lots of people are getting Empowered Super Bee. But you can smash it, and you can make it into Super Bee if that's what you're looking for as well. Gene says, I'm doing lots of tournaments. I'd like something interesting to spend the tokens on. For sure, that has been in our backlog for quite some time as a tournament overhaul, but unfortunately, just can't quite get the time or resources together to work on it. The effect of the QA room is too minor, in my opinion. Definitely open to suggestions. That was kind of something we were brainstorming for a while, and weren't quite 100% thrilled with the effect, but we couldn't quite come up with anything that was a better fit. So we kind of went with the best option we had, but for sure, we open to suggestions in 2021 of what else it could do. And I just realized I'm still big. I don't like to be big. Should have put this up probably 10 minutes ago. And we also thought the birthday event tournaments is quite meh. That's a bit of a challenge too with the tournaments in that they're kind of gravy on top, and we don't want to. If we make them too rewarding, then we have to take that really into account of sort of the overall pacing of something, and we don't want to create the expectation where, well, now you have to do tournaments, otherwise the event is just way too hard or way too time consuming. And so they are kind of in a weird place, and that goes back to just them needing basically a complete overhaul. If we were to do tournaments in 2020, I don't think they would look anything like they do right now. But that said, it's just tough to find the time to carve out to work on such a massive project like that. We tend to prioritize new adventures and stuff as well, because it reaches a larger portion of the player base. That kind of everyone engages with that, whereas tournaments is a smaller group of players, but they're having fun doing it. It's just kind of a tough balancing act to find how much time to devote to all different projects. And what you mainly need SB plus for is magic essence and crafting. Yeah, absolutely. It kind of depends on your rank as well. And I think there's definitely a correlation of a little higher level players join us on Feedback Friday. And so we always kind of keep that in mind as well, as typically we get kind of feedback from some of the higher level players. But to lower level players, they still use Super Brie just to avoid the failure to attract. There might be areas where you get better loot per hunt if you're using your Super Brie than if you're using Gouda or Brie. Or potions if you need that anymore, which you mostly don't. Again, like higher level players or higher level areas, we've kind of moved away from potions, kind of as we've measured and watched players go through areas. The ones with potions prove to be a little bit more confusing. There's just something about that flow that isn't too intuitive, and so we've kind of moved away from that a bit. Regular party charms and anniversary aura would be nice. I think, Brian, didn't you originally suggest that? Are you agreeing with your own suggestion? Hamandi says, I love getting tier 8 gauntlet cheese as epic. That is definitely one of the better ones, but with that in mind, it's also one of the more rare ones. Epson says, I feel birthday tourneys could stand to get better awards for Kagi Colby, and 4 factory charms for first place isn't much. Yeah, I agree. It kind of comes down to, though, it's a tough situation where if they're too rewarding, then we really got to take that into account when we figure out sort of the overall pacing of the event. So it is in kind of a weird spot. I think the max level QA room can give some bonus like last year's break room, so that people don't think of it as a waste of materials to upgrade the QA room. Says HN. Terry says it's nice that it is less stressful and we are able to complete things even when we're busy with life's other demands. Yeah, that's definitely one of the goals of the Super Brie Factory, was to not be too epic over the top of an event with lots of cool, maybe that's not the right word, but lots of big, important, kind of heavy content to sink your teeth in and really achieve some interesting and long-term goals during the event, but more of just kind of a chill way to earn some free Super Brie. Now says, any possibility to do a community event quest like 10,000 dragons, and I've scrolled and now I've lost it. So many dragons overall, certain times, special theming. We've tried that in the past, and it's proved very difficult to balance kind of or predict how quickly everyone will go through something. And so you might think, yeah, lots of people are going to engage with this, go capture 10,000 dragons, and then 4 people go to do it, and you're like, okay, we're in trouble. This is going to take 7 years before they achieve it. So we've kind of shied away from that just because the times we've tried hasn't worked too well. Nathan says, could the QA room do something like party charms? Oh, that's a really good idea. Or make it so that each crate extends the birthday aura longer instead of ESB+. That's very interesting. Kadeem says a chance for boss mice in each sections to drop factory repair charms. They kind of indirectly do that, in that once the factory is upgraded, you can use your excess parts to buy factory repair charms. So that's kind of how we folded in the ability to get those. Ashley says Vincent also doesn't give points in the tournaments, which seems strange to me. Doesn't have to be higher per se. Yeah, that stood out to me as well. I'll jot that down. It seemed odd. Jonathan says, you all want party charms. I can't think of an occasion where I'd actually use them. That might be a good segue to kind of get feedback specifically on what do you think of the new tiers of party charms. They are a little bit different from their snowball and spooky cousins in that they can't be exchanged with other hunters or sold on the marketplace, but their stats are a little bit higher in that regard. So a little bit harder to get, slower trickle of them than the other similar charms, but they're a little bit more powerful to try to give them their own identity without taking too much away from Snowball and Spooky, because the supply is higher, so you might be a little bit more willing to use them more often. Whereas the party, their charms, where we were going for something where they're a little more powerful, but they're not as plentiful. So you might want to save those for a different occasion. So you have kind of a choice to make of when to use a resource when. Ben says, put the break room back to how it was last year, giving out FRC a better use in pulling the supply out really changes the event. Nathan says 24% power bonus and 30 luck is nothing to scoff at. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best charms in the game now. That said, they're a little bit hard to come by. So each year we're trying to find these exciting things to look forward to about the event, like the ability to earn free Super Brie, the ability to earn party charms once a year. Factory repair charm can be bought with factory parts, by the way. That is correct. Ashley says party charms could have also been in the tournament rewards. That's a pretty good suggestion as well, as a way to kind of beef up the tournament rewards without it directly affecting the event progression. And then that would help avoid the problem of tournaments providing so many supplies that now you have to do them to be able to do the event in a sort of reasonable manner by rewarding something that's still birthday event themed but not necessarily a progression type resource. Nathan says, yeah, but getting normal party charms is how you get to ultimate by hunting. That is the most efficient way. So if you're looking for the best way to cash out your factory parts, if you're interested in the higher tier party charms, if you start with the normals and you spend the time hunting, that should net a greater quantity of the higher tier ultimate charms in the end, unless you get incredibly unlucky. That said, you also have to put in that time, so you can choose whether you want to spend the time or you just want to cash out your parts. You might be a nice middle ground to buy the supers or the extremes and try to upgrade those into ultimates. Epson looked like you got lucky with the Galleon Gouda a few times. And Torres says, is there a way to add a note to traps that says if they're winter or birthday related? We are working on that. And I think it might be done. I forget. I'd have to look it up. I forget when that's rolling out. But the trap selector should have a way very similar to charms where you'll be able to select them by kind of a tag or category. So you can pull up all your birthday traps and look at them all in one spot. Ben says, Dave, is the Super Brie produced scoreboard supposed to only track regular Super Brie and not empowered? I don't know off the top of my head. Will Leppy multiply over St. Patrick's Day? As you used to remember, it's Monsol's birthday event. I think we are planning, if it'll work, to turn on the bonus luck event, but that doesn't have any effect on the Leprechaun Mouse. Brian says, add the Dragon Slayer cannon skin Jacob was drawing to the Tournament Hall Trapsmith. Yeah, we discussed that the other day. It went with a gilded theme, which is something we typically try to reserve for the Relic Hunter season. So if it ends up being a gilded skin, I think that will probably get slotted for release in November. QA room is a bit weird because ESB value on the marketplace is lower than SB+. Yeah, it was not that case before the event, but definitely after the event, the supply of it has exceeded. Old break room functions could just be for hunting with Coggy, Colby, or farming cheese instead of getting more Coggy when using Coggy. Yeah, it's an option as well. We were trying to find a way to have all the rooms affect kind of the crate, or the pumping the cheese towards the crate, rather than being kind of buffs to your trap, but it is another option. Terry says, I agree, Dave, about the CC. Really struggled last year in the beginning and felt like I needed to hoard CC at the end. Yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing that just didn't feel like it was quite right. The vast difference of on day 1 your ability to collect this resource and on day 20 your ability was so dramatically far apart that it almost to leave it that way, you'd almost have to think, well, okay, well, what about people who were collecting it at this rate at the end of last year's event, and they're going to start this year's event with this? It was just really, it's kind of like a minefield of decision making. Is it possible to increase levels if stagnating at 5 rooms get repetitive after a while? Potentially, but again, the goal of the Super Brie event, and open to feedback whether this is not too interesting of a goal for us to pursue, is to make a little bit more of a relaxed event. Even something where you might go and earn the golden tickets, pick up a few rewards, earn a little free Super Brie, and then feel comfortable like you're not missing out on anything if you want to leave and go back to your regularly scheduled hunting, if you will. And so that's kind of what we were going for, and so we didn't want to make it too above and beyond or too many stretch goals or too big of a demand on anything. Cass says, will you change the design of the widgets for the Android app? There's no plans at the moment. Definitely it would be kind of one of our dream projects is to overhaul kind of a lot about the mobile app, but no plans at the moment. Mockfighter says golden punch tickets are a bit redundant. I gotta learn not to scroll because it just jumps around. More exciting exchanges in the Trapsmith Cheese Shop. Yeah, open to suggestions for sure. Caleb says the birthday adventure went live before the game went down for maintenance, so I was able to instantly claim with my resource from last year. Yeah, we did notice that was unfortunate. There's a couple little hiccups when we were rolling out the code. Ben says, I did not upgrade the QA room at all. I would hope you at least upgraded it once to finish the adventure. I suppose you could wait till the very end to do it. How about a new crate to exchange golden tickets for actual SB+. It doesn't have to be a lice, but at least the option 2 now everyone wants ultimate type charms. Yeah, we can brainstorm some more things to cash out for. Higher tier gives more higher tier party charms using the aura. That's interesting as well. That might be tricky because the anniversary aura lasts longer than the event goes on for, so some of the feedback might get a little tricky on that in remembering what level you got your room to. I think for most people it would probably be a high level, but you don't know for sure. It's going to take months to stockpile Ultimate Party. Yep, they definitely would take a while. But hopefully that also makes them a little special and something that helps influence the decision of which charm to use when. HN says, would it be possible to make it more explicit that materials can be smashed into party charms in the hut? I recognize this in the news post, but not most obvious place. Yeah, that's a pretty good suggestion. Man, Dave is really behind the chat. Maybe I should give up and scroll to the bottom here. We'll see. To help the people missing in the CC, the factory gave them last year. What if CC were added to a random pool of cheese from the break room? I think I would just rather increase the drop rate even further when you're not using Colby, and that kind of achieves the same thing and maintains the mechanic of collecting resource, switch to consuming resource. This is my resource gauge. The description says we'll create a fancy new look for the Dragon Slayer cats. Oh, look at this. I figured out how to update the title of the video, at least after you go live. What are you doing to me, Jacob? He's leaving landmines here. There, we can change the description of the stream. Dave's ESB produced scoreboard supposed to only track a regular. I think that seems a little bit weird to me, but I don't know for sure. But that does seem like that would be a bug to me. QA room can give different bonuses each level. Upgrade changes all Super Brie crate into ESB. Second upgrade adds party charms to the crate. Yeah, I actually kind of like the idea of the party charms potentially. Hermandy says, for me, I like this relaxed event. Good to hear. I might be in a kind of a similar boat. Like it's kind of nice that I feel okay with going back to working on my living garden goals once I feel like I've done everything I wanted to do at the factory, and then there isn't like everything is like, well, no, if I leave, there's this fear of missing out. I'm not getting all these extra stretch goals, or I'm not kind of farming everything else I want to collect up. Gene says, what's the purpose of tourney tokens? Might throw in something extra in regular tourneys beside tokens and trophies. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tournaments are long due for an overhaul. Just unfortunately, we have not had the time to overhaul them, and kind of between the choice of, well, if we don't have time to work on it, should we remove them from the game or kind of leave them as is? We've kind of decided to just leave them as is better than removing something if we're not happy with it. But definitely, hopefully, one day in the future we'll have time to overhaul them. Is it time to move on to the spring icon? Yeah, if you like. There's not too much to report there. It'll be pretty well the same as it was last year. I'm going to add some new eggs, primarily to the Valor Rift, as well as Queso Geysers. Going to see a few new eggs as well. Todd says, I'm finally using up my Rewind Raclette. Yeah, it is pretty well, or it's pretty close to Super Brie in terms of its ability to collect Coggy Colby. Nathan says, I think punch tickets for Ultimate Terms is pretty exciting. Yeah, I mean, fair enough, but I could see, different hunters have different things they're looking for, and kind of as long as everything is sort of in balance with something else, then having more choice is usually a good thing. We need the Platinum Diamond Tourney Base. Yeah, no plans to work on tournaments anytime soon, unfortunately, but they are in need of some love. Jonathan Delele, thanks for the explanation of Epic Cheese. Makes sense now. Last few Vincents have given me flaming queso, not complaining at that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we struggled to try to find words, and I don't know if we found exactly the right adjective for each slot, but sort of where those, where we decided what cheese to put where was where it lies in the progression of an area, but then also kind of taking a little pinch of the title requirement and the overall time it takes to acquire that. But that said, not all epic cheeses are created equal. But I think that'd be kind of impossible to do because there's just some cheese that's really hard to acquire, and so we just made that less common to kind of represent its difficulty to acquire and the overall sort of pieces per hunt you can collect, which is sort of the metric we use there. Will factory parts and golden tickets be removed from our inventory at the end of the event? No guarantees. I don't think we'll remove them at the end of the event, but before next year we would. And we typically do it before the start of a repeated event. In case we don't repeat the event, then there's no need to do that, and so we might do something different with them. So we kind of like to leave our options open until we know that, yes, in 2021, the golden tickets will have another use, so that's when we remove them, is before the 2021 event. Kadium says, why doesn't the aura icon in the trap tell us the March 21 limit? Yeah, that'd be good to have in the tooltip. Could use a mention. I guess my notes don't need to be grammatically correct, I guess. Total Eclipse egg, Floor 100 egg, Nugget egg, just kidding. That is, we've put together a few eggs for different augmentations in the tower so far. And actually last year we did a lot of Queso Geyser eggs, and there was a little uncertainty last April whether the spring egg hunt would be released before or after Queso Geyser. It ended up being afterwards, I think. I don't quite recall, but at any rate, the Queso Geyser eggs did not make it into the spring egg hunt last year. So those were actually already good to go. We're playing around with exactly how many Valor Rift eggs. It's interesting because there's not too many phases of progression outside of using up your different augmentations there. So it's a kind of a challenging one to come up with interesting eggs for. We finally get a Zuriel egg. We have an M400 egg, still no reason to have a Zuriel egg. Yeah, it's still up in the air a little bit. When does the egg hunt start? It will start next month. And yeah, early on in April, probably the second week of April. But a little too early to say with absolute certainty. Nathan says, I know this is random, but I heard rumors of elite level Relic Hunter treasure maps. Any update on that? They are planned for when we have more Archduke areas in the game. They will have a requirement of Archduke, Archduchess, and there's just not enough mice at that title yet to have the elite level released, but that said, we're getting there with the Valor Rift being the first one. And then they do technically exist in the game, there's just no way to obtain them right now, and that's just so as we go along, we keep updating the Epic treasure map rule set so that when we do go to release it, it's just easier to do it kind of with every release as part of our final checklist than it would be when it's time to release them, go back and go through all the areas and do all that work in one sitting. Boone asks, any news on the new area? Not too much to share. I think we have kind of one promising prototype that's kind of being finished up, and it's a little bit more concrete, something we can work with. And then we're doing some other ideation on a couple other variants of that as well. But nothing too new to share yet. Gene says, how come you don't make a section on our hunter profile over collected, not collected Easter eggs? Would be nice to keep an eye on it. Hunting strategy during Easter. You can see that in your inventory if you go to your excavator and you click ping. It'll pull up a whole special interface where you can see all the eggs you have all year long. So there's a way to see that. Again, the egg hunt has been a bit of a challenge for us as the years have gone by. It's very polarizing. Some hunters absolutely love it, and other hunters just kind of, I don't think they dislike it, but they don't engage with it at all. And it's actually been a challenge for us because every April we see a little bit of an exodus of players. For whatever reason, there's this correlation between the spring egg hunt and our kind of player count and retention, where people tend to get a little bit bored of MouseHunt during the spring egg hunt, and inevitably they leave and then they don't come back. So with that in mind, I don't know whether it would help or hurt to make it more prominent. I think kind of the root of the problem is the egg hunt is very set your own goal. So it's almost completely, you have to decide what you want to do and what you're interested in achieving from during the spring egg hunt during any given year. And that can be kind of, depending on where you are in the game, I think that can be a tricky thing to do. If you don't have that interesting goal that you set for yourself, then all of a sudden you feel like you don't really have a direction to go in. And so we've had some ideas on how to address that, but it's just been kind of a time and resource issue to try to finalize that. I wonder if V-Rift maps will ever be released. They are kind of on the back burner at the moment. No plans to add treasure maps to Valor Rift. We've been a little bit overwhelmed. We're trying to do some hiring as well to kind of beef up the MouseHunt team a little bit, but we're sort of down to a bit of a skeleton crew working on the game these days. So it's been a challenge to take on multiple projects at the same time. So we're doing our best to prioritize as well. We definitely want to at least get kind of the roadmap sorted out and the area, kind of our next area or new adventure for the game, have that decided on, finalized, fleshed out so that production can start. And then typically for us, once kind of the ball's rolling and production's up and running on one project, it's a little easier to start picking up smaller side projects to work on in tandem. But we're sort of at that big planning phase still. Liana asks, is it possible to increase the rates of higher tier baits in Epic Loot? I feel most players in MH now is getting higher, and getting Vengeful Villa or Rumble ain't helping the majority of much in progression. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, part of the goal, too, of the event wasn't necessarily to make it a flood of amazing cheese, so we're kind of trying to weigh the feedback there, whether that's a nice little bonus to get in the crate, or whether if it's not particularly interesting or useful, well, what else can we do instead? So it's still a bit of an experimental process in the reward structure. But I said, the goal of the Super Refactory isn't to kind of flood a bunch of epic cheese. Kind of the main goal is a fun opportunity to earn some free Super Brie, and then we wanted a little bit of gravy on top here, a few reasons to stick around if you don't have other compelling goals. But we did want to experiment with an event where you feel okay that once you've achieved everything you're looking to achieve, you can go back and take on the adventure book and go do what you're doing before the event started. Swift says, will Dragon Shard eggs ever return? Yes, they will return with the Spring Egg Hunt. They will be available. Again, I can't say with 100% certainty, but they will be available in the Queso Canyon region. We're still kind of playing around with exactly which mice are dropping them, but they will be available during the egg hunt. We need a Dev's egg or a Glitch Paw egg. See, that would be a little too, a little bit of an awkward precedent. Something would have to go wrong for the Glitch Paw mice to be released or something, but maybe if they were obtained in a different way. Red Bastard says it was mentioned last year, Dragon Shard egg will return. They're not LE, yes. And I'm pretty sure that's been implemented already. They're a normal dropped egg. They're not the most common egg, but they drop in somewhere in Queso Canyon. A Lumi Lancer egg would be cool. Give people a reason to use Brie-string cheese inside the tower. See, I don't know. I don't like. I typically don't like goals, and I find hunters to kind of we get a little pushback on any where you have to achieve something by kind of sabotaging your progress in another way. It tends to create a little bit of friction and mixed feedback. And a bunch of birds just crashed into the window. That kind of startled me. I think they're okay though. They flew off. Just the window. I just heard. I don't see any birds laying on the windowsill, so I hope they're okay. It kind of freaked me out for a second. Chunk says, I wish the tournament token can buy something like a team effort or a +1 luck, or at least brings more meaning to tournament. Yeah, for sure. I mean, kind of reading between the lines of feedback beyond specific suggestions, and the specifics is that tournaments need a little love. And it could be almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that not a whole lot of players engage with tournaments, which kind of influences our decision of, okay, where do we spend our time? There's only so many hours in the day, or so many things we can do at once. And so that's often kind of the hardest decisions we have, is just what to do more often than it is what should we do. So that plays into our decision-making process of, well, like, not a whole lot of players are engaging in tournaments, but maybe that's because they need to be better, and then that would have more players engage with it. So it might be kind of a catch-22 there. So it says, what is the concept or theme of that prototype? That might be a bigger topic than we have time for today, but I was exploring kind of, again, the theme of islands floating above Machu Picchu, or to the east of Machu Picchu. And so you'll embark upon a mission, and you'll have a little a board, or obviously there's no kind of terms that have been solidified, or some of the narrative to some of the metaphors we're still working on. Where you're picking which island you want to visit, and they're all a little bit different, but they have similar things in about them. So kind of interesting choices depending on what you're looking to achieve. Which island do you want to visit? And so you might visit a physical island where there's lots of loot, or you might go to a forgotten island where you have a power bonus on that island and there's a boss or something, and there's different kind of combinations to make different varying interesting islands. HN, will the Dragon Shard eggs still be found as a global drops during the Spring Egg Hunt? No, they will be restricted to a single area unless we turn on the Dragon Shard egg mini event, which is pretty well flipping a switch. I won't rule that out. We're still kind of thinking about that, open to kind of what hunters would think if we turned on the Dragon Shard event, maybe for the last week of the egg hunt or something like that. Jonathan says, I wonder how many people spend the whole spring egg hunt chasing a shelter egg and not getting it. That is a concern of mine as well, too. And so that's kind of feedback we've taken to heart, in that it was a very popular suggestion from players. Like, they were looking for the absolute most difficult egg you could think of to try and find. But then when that actually got put into the game, I feel then the feedback wasn't great on it. So we've sort of, it's something that's on our minds when we think of new eggs. And I think, okay, I got to give up on where my position was in the chat. I think I clicked the arrow to go to now, and I think I was a lot more behind than I thought I was. I wonder if there's a way to turn on timestamps. Toggle timestamps. There we go. Look at that. Now I can see if I'm really behind. Will Hope Mouse be around because of the coronavirus pandemic? It was a difficult spot for us with the Hope Mouse. We ended up putting it in the training grounds permanently because it put us in an awkward spot where kind of we had to make decisions that far exceed the world of video games, I think, and so with that in mind, we didn't want to kind of pick and choose, or we didn't really think it was kind of a spot as game developers. We should be kind of picking and choosing where to kind of focus attentions and stuff like that. So with that in mind, we moved it to an area permanently with a nice description and leave hunters in society in general as in the role of deciding what they want to kind of focus their efforts on and what kind of messages they want to bring to the world. Tom says, just like Silicon Valley, do you have a tree inside? I don't think I've watched too much of that show. I think I've watched a couple seasons. I don't know if I remember it vividly enough to recall a tree, though. KDM says, the birds are giving you a sign. Maybe. Gene says, would you consider making it possible to invite other hunters via their hunter ID directly through the treasure map instead of a huge detour in the system through both computer and app? I know definitely the treasure map interface on mobile is in need of a complete overhaul. We wanted to do that for Season 7, and unfortunately we just did not have the time to do such a large, or take on such a large project. That said, you can toggle it so you can add somebody even if they're not a friend. And there has been kind of in the idea bank, again, we wanted to do it in Season 7, but it was just kind of a bit of a time restraint, a way to open that up even more where other hunters could browse maps that are opened and make requests to join the map sort of thing and have a whole suite of interfaces to help kind of expedite and streamline that. Stejan says, talking about what to do, any news on what we can expect this year considering new areas reworks, or have I missed things? No official roadmap to share, which is fair enough. I'm kind of stressed out being in March and we don't have a super firm, fleshed out roadmap, but I think that's kind of a little bit of creative block, or just kind of not finding an idea that exactly works 100% well for us. Swiss says, okay, yay, floating islands still in the menu. Well, it's, we don't want to paint ourselves into a corner. Often creativity is best achieved by giving yourself limitations, quite often. But sometimes it can also go the other way. And if you're putting yourself in a position where, well, it has to be this, and you just keep hitting a wall, it's like, this isn't working. Eventually you have to move on and say, let's try a different restriction. And that's what you can see. Kind of the artwork on the map alludes to that idea that didn't quite work out. But we'll see. We'll see if we're able to kind of pivot and have a completely different working area that has the same sort of narrative and theme. It could work. HN says, would you consider retiring the charge eggs? Charge cycle's time consuming. Yes, actually, that's kind of been a lot of the pitches for overhauling the spring egg hunt have involved removing the charge aspect of it and kind of, again, just giving a whole new fresh coat of paint. But nothing's quite panned out, so for the foreseeable, or at least for this year, it's just kind of maintaining the status quo is kind of a safer decision to us than doing something that we're not entirely sure of. Jacob drew a few mice for the floating islands. Yes, we do have quite a few characters fleshed out for that narrative, and so again, that's even more motivation for us to try and do something within that sort of creative storyline. But then the exact kind of gameplay, I think that's been kind of torn down and trying a completely different direction with it. Swift says, why the training grounds for the Hope Mouse, though? Well, it was many years ago, and it was just kind of the most appropriate area at the time. When will hydro-tactical and physical be great again? Well, we are, I think they're due for high-level areas as well. So hopefully in the not-too-distant future. Caleb says, love you guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Caleb. So it says, no, I want the charge eggs. Again, maybe they could be implemented them in a kind of a fresh, more interesting way. But again, no plans for that. Quar soon. It's been 50 minutes. Look, thank you for the reminder, Brian. We shall move on to the quar, which is question, answer, reward as coined by Franco, or as Giorgio, sorry, the quar, he likes to pronounce it as. The trivia question today, the answer is not 48, is which spring hunt egg or eggs were the very first to be released? Where is the bearded one? He's off today. He booked today off. White egg, no. Charge egg, no. Brian says the 10 set, close. Now I'm worried I'm wrong. It's quite possible I have the wrong answer to this question. White, no. Gray, no. The original 10, close but no cigar. White, gift. The gift is one of them. The golden egg is one of them. Red, blue, yellow, close, Michelle. I'm worried I have the wrong answer. The Big Bad Burrows egg is, nope. The golden egg is one of them, though. Gift was one of the original set of 10. That is correct. Were there 10 eggs? Yeah, I got the wrong answer. Entirely possible. Uh-oh. I can't look it up. I gotta do some technical work to be able to look this up. Switch my version of PHP. Get my computer to do more things at once. Why not? Hold on. Can't run MouseHunt on my computer right now. There we go. All right. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I don't wanna do that. Okay, get out of here. Yay, MouseHunt works. Stripey. Yep. Give us your wrong answer egg. I had the original chocolate factory eggs, or the original set of 8 plus the gift egg. But were there 10? Are there 10 eggs? I think I done did screw up. There's no way this many hunters have an answer, and I have a different answer, and I'm right. That just doesn't happen very often. I'm going to go to the special section of my inventory, and we're going to find the excavator. Okay, we're going to go to the live version of the game, because my local copy doesn't have the excavator. I'll ping my excavator. Here we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, there were 10, so I apologize. I had the wrong answer. The wrong answer. There are, in fact, 10 original spring eggs. The green plaid, the blue argyle, the stripy red, the wavy purple, the scalloped pink, the sharing, the friendly, the caring, the golden, and the gift. So I think I missed the ones that you would get outside of that original kind of factory set. So there were 10 eggs. Oh. Jonathan looks like he may have the right specifics there. Brian, I think, may also have the right specific if that equals 10. So, reward link incoming. I'll replace the date here. I'll paste it in the chat momentarily. Why did I delete it when I could have edited it? Okay, we'll put it there. Reward link has been pasted in the chat as well. Now I'm interested. I have long forgotten how you got these eggs. So I think the green plaid, the green, blue, red, purple, and pink, were those ones all factory eggs, and then the golden egg was at the end. The gift egg you could send to friends. The sharing, the friendly, and the caring, though, where did those come from? Michelle says you should have said the first egg outside of the first 10. Well, maybe next time. Yeah, HN has a kind of a fair comment there, and the charge cycle can feel a little tedious, and if you feel like that's the main kind of purpose of it, Yeah, I'd agree that you know some hunters could get a little burnt out from doing that over and over again. I think it could use a little bit of love to be something that's kind of passive friendly yet reward you for activity, but kind of a better balance between those two. Game says, hope mice should be added in as an extra hunt in Hunter's Hunt when newly released areas go out to give them hope in that area. That's interesting. Zwen asks, any new traps for Easter? No, but some new skins. Ben says, I may actually hunt spring egg hunt mice this year beyond the 10 eggs. That's a bit of a challenge with the egg hunt as well. I mean, any kind of stockpile event has a similar vibe to it. Where you feel if you go and hunt the event mice, you're almost not participating in sort of the main part of the event. Feels a little bit weird to me, especially because without charge cycling, it's not like you need anything to go and find those eggs. So all of a sudden the event mice are like, well, I'd like to go hunt them, but then that means I can't go find all these interesting eggs. And it's like, I don't know what I want to do. Whereas Lunar New Year doesn't quite have the same vibe in that to go and start burning your candles, you have to collect your candles. So at least you feel good about capturing those mice because you're stocking up on candles to then go off and do kind of the cool last part of burning the candles. What made you create MH in the first place? Do you have mice at home, a passion for cheese? I think it was just a kind of a random idea that came up 12 years ago. I know at the time we were doing web design, so we'd have clients and we'd build websites for clients and we'd do search engine optimization for clients. And one of our clients, they had a blog as part of their site and they wanted to be able to post to the blog without sending us the copy. So they wanted a place to log in, type out the thing, hit save, and it goes up on their website. And when we experimented around with that, the Facebook platform was kind of brand new at the time. And so we thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun to experiment with their API and see like what we can do there. And then it'd be kind of neat if they just, in their Facebook account, they just log in. Then we don't have to worry about like usernames, passwords, and stuff. They just log into their Facebook account, type up a blog post, hit submit, and it goes up on their site. And so we did that. I was like, oh, this is kind of neat, some of the tools Facebook created 12 years ago. And so we thought, well, why don't we try like making a game as just a fun little experiment. And originally it was just going to be on your face. At the time, you could put games or apps actually on your Facebook profile. And so just be a little mouse trap on your profile and you see if any mice came by and you just come back every now and then. But and it just kind of grew from there. Fritz suggests a number of hunts on an area and it gives you an area egg. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of a very tangible goal you can strive to achieve. Caleb says, is the nanny bot ever coming back? Is parental power ever going to be reworked? It would probably be removed from the game if we get to a point and the power type of the nanny bot changed. But that's the nanny bot's limited edition, so it wouldn't come back. Jonathan says, it seems that 5 eggs required hunting around the kingdom. Each had 7 or 8 possible locations. 3 eggs could be found anywhere seen on friends' profile pages. Gift egg was a gift. Okay. Sometimes I wish it doesn't quite work seamlessly, but obviously the game is under source control, so I can look at all the different revisions of the code for 12 years. But quite often rolling back, I guess not fully 12 years. But often rolling back and you boot up the game, it just doesn't work anymore. There's like technological changes and there's a lot more changes than just kind of the code in the game to kind of get up and running. But so it'd be kind of interesting to go back and just run the game as it was 10 years ago and see kind of what it was like for a little bit. HN says, when would the remove sidebar option on Facebook be available? Off the top of my head, I don't know where that got slotted into, but I know it's kind of in the works. I don't know if it's been completed or not, actually. Relimited to submit 1 entry for the birthday art contest. You know what? I don't know. I don't have kind of the official rules and guidelines with me. I get the impressions it's a pretty lighthearted kind of for fun contest. So I don't know though. I wouldn't think so, but I don't know for sure. I think Stacy and Jacob were organizing that, and I don't quite have all the kind of sort of official rules and conditions of the contest. How many new eggs for the spring egg hunt, asks Nicholas. Let's count them up. And actually, I'm open to feedback because next week we have a decision. We had a few more eggs scheduled as kind of low priority eggs, and we weren't sure if it was just too many eggs. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 at the moment, and I think plus a couple more that were technically already in the game, but they just weren't available because they're Queso Geyser. And at the moment, there are eggs associated with different Valor Rift augmentations. We also had kind of suggestion to do an egg for each floor of the Rift Gauntlet Tower. But I mean, you get those kind of quickly, so we're also kind of playing around with the idea of the eggs becoming more abundant the higher you climb up in the tower. Michelle says, no limits for the art contest. Thank you very much. So Michelle has enlightened me. No limits for the art contest, as many submissions as you like. Jonathan says, caring, sharing, and friendly were the profile eggs. All right, good to know. See, I have no recollection of that from many years ago. The golden egg was the 10th because you couldn't find it till you had the other 9. I do recall that. For some reason, I thought there were 8. I guess I forgot completely about the profile themed eggs. Mandy says, I like the idea of catching all the unique mice in the area for an area egg. I think that'd be a better fit if the eggs weren't necessarily like a limited time spring event, kind of a unique collectible or badge to say, cool, I found all these mice in the area. But tying it with the egg hunt, I don't know, I'd have to think about that a bit. Max says, how spaghettified is your code after 12 years? Well, I'm also on version 3, so it has been rewritten 3 times. That said, yep, it's for sure there's some spaghetti, but then there's some non-spaghetti in there as well. And expression in programming and maintaining long-term legacy projects that kind of resonated with me is the code will never be perfect, but tomorrow it can be better. And I feel like that's a more uplifting way to kind of go about programming work. Because often when you're working with something kind of old, and technology changes, right? And 12 years ago, there were things just that didn't exist that do today. That would mean, okay, well, you should do this differently now in 2020 than you should in 2008. And so I just kind of like thinking, well, you avoid the sort of broken window syndrome, if you will. It's like, wow, this part's already kind of bad, so I'll just do this. It's like, well, no, every day it can just be a little bit better. It might never be perfect, but it can always be a little better. That kind of helps keep motivating to innovate. I said, I think we would be long overdue for MouseHunt V4, but it is a challenge to organize. Jonathan says, I checked the MHWiki for the details of the 2011 event. It says there were also 25 eggs available for particular mouser areas. I wish I had a time machine to go back. The wiki timeline is very beneficial, though. That's probably one of the most used pages on the wiki by me. So big thanks, big shout out to the wiki editors that are updating and keeping that page good to go, because I reference it quite frequently. No elixir rain egg, please. Oh man, oh no. I don't, did that one get? Let me see here, rain. No, see, that's one of the low priority eggs. That's one of the maybe eggs. So I had a strong feeling that if I ran that by hunters, they wouldn't want that egg. That may or may not confirm it, but that is good feedback to have in our pocket for next week. KDM says, you wanted to say something about Android? Look at this. I did not even use my Feedback Friday notes, because yes, it is 12:04. What am I doing? All right, well, there is an upcoming Android update. I guess it isn't too critical, but I'd like to touch base on it on Feedback Friday for sure, in case there's any uncertainties, questions. It's a good forum in case the news post wasn't clear enough to kind of get that feedback that, okay, we didn't do a good job on the news post. There is an upcoming Android update. We made an in-game announcement via the news, and it's going to change the minimum supported version of Android from Jelly Bean, which is Android 4.1, to KitKat, which is Android 4.4. At the moment, there's approximately 325 devices that use the Android app. I say devices because that could be one hunter with 325 Android devices. We don't know. But there are 325 Android devices out there in the world that are actively playing MouseHunt and they're not running KitKat. So if you're one of those affected players, you're still going to be able to use the app, but you're not going to be able to download it from Google Play or update it anymore. And for sure, we know it kind of stinks that we have to do it. And we held off for as long as we could, but we're at the point where now we're using old versions of Facebook code, and they're going to say, hey, this doesn't work anymore. We're not supporting this version of Facebook login anymore. You need to update it. And their new version of Facebook login requires KitKat. So we're kind of at the point where there's features of the app that will just cease to work unless we up the minimum required version. So we held off for as long as we could. Yeah, that's kind of that's where we're at. I don't see too many concerns or feedback in the chat there. That's it. With only 325 devices. Obviously, I would prefer that to be 0 rather than 325, but I guess the odds are there may not be anyone affected in the chat. Off the top of my head, I don't know the best way to check your version of Android. Maybe somebody in the chat can enlighten me, as I don't have an Android device beside me at the moment. It's a little bit different too. I wonder, we have a few different test devices, but it's the thing on Android. Everyone might be a little bit different as well, so you might be better off Googling how to check Android version with the name of your phone or your tablet, and search that on the internet to get some good advice. Settings about phone, I believe, says Ryan. All right. Makes sense to me. Probably settings and about phone device. Yeah, even I think I have 3 Android devices in my drawer. No, I don't. I just have one, two. I think I don't know. I have a variety of test devices, but they're probably not charged, so I don't think I could check. And I have a tablet, but I think I have that one at home right now. Latest is Android 9 anyway. I think it was 10. Android 10. And it's a little confusing, but they have like API versions versus named versions. It makes sense when you kind of look at it, but I think to kind of user-facing, it's a little bit weird. And even in the news post, I think we kind of went into technical details. We're upgrading from API level 11, no, API level, what is it, 16 to 19. And 16 is Jelly Bean, and 19 is KitKat. But Jelly Bean is also API level 17 and 18. At least it was like the minimum version, so that should be pretty clear. Whereas if we're doing something like updating to API level 17, it's possible some Jelly Bean would work and some Jelly Bean wouldn't, but that doesn't appear to be the case, so that won't be, hopefully not too confusing to know whether you'll be affected or not. But if you want to be safe, maybe just download make sure you have the app downloaded to your older Android device now, and unfortunately you won't be able to update it, but at least you'll still be able to sound the horn. Unfortunately though, every time we do events and new content, we have to upload a new build to the App Store to get you to be able to see the heads-up display and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just kind of a way around that. Dustin says, will the updates fix some of the issues with the widget notifications never disappearing on my phone? Actually, some of the hunters are helping us beta test the app, and actually if you'd like to lend a hand as well, I think we could probably use a few more. Kind of the more the better too, because a lot of the crash reports are automated, so even if you don't necessarily want to submit bug reports, sometimes it's nice just to have the app running on as many different flavors of Android as we can to cast a wide net. But for sure, one of the testers has been helping us sort out some notification issues, so hopefully that'll be smoothed out and be working as intended and be the best possible version of notifications. But it's nice too. We're updating the kind of underlying framework of the app. You know, think of it like the engine in your car is getting upgraded. So so far too, a lot of the testers have noticed the app's a little bit quicker to load, a little snappier, feels a little bit more stable, and it's just kind of general performance upgrades as well as being able to support functionality going forward. All right, as I'm running out of breath from speaking for an hour straight, and I have allowed this Feedback Friday to go on for quite some time, I should probably get things to an end so I can go about the rest of my duties for the day. But thank you very much for the feedback on the birthday event. I'll put that up one more time. Where did I go? Thank you very much for the feedback on the birthday event, as well. Put up a summary on the tavern section of the forums. We'll keep kind of looking for more feedback. We've already made our 2021 milestone for the birthday event, and so that's kind of where we're logging all the feedback, because it's very natural when we come to start planning next year's birthday event. We'll open up that milestone and boom, all of our notes are right there to remind us of all the feedback we had 10 or 11 months in the past. So that should work out pretty well. Keep the feedback coming. Feel free to post it on the forums section. Out of breath after an hour. Oh, well, I guess I can't. I don't know. I guess I'm not too chatty. I can't talk for that long, I guess. Time for more coffee, perhaps. I didn't quite finish my coffee. Yeah, it's a little cold. Thanks, Dave. Have a nice day ahead, you two. Happy hunting. Enjoy your weekend, your evening, your morning, or wherever you happen to be headed to after you have watched this. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for the feedback, and I'll see you next time. I think it'll be Jacob next week. I'll be doing a art stream, and I think, maybe Michelle can confirm, but that they're planning on announcing the winner of the art contest as well next week. I think that was the original plan, to announce it on Feedback Friday, so unless I am mistaken, I think that's still good to go. And I am trying to find outro music. There it is. Sweet. All right, happy hunting. Thanks for joining me, hunters. Fair point. Someone just asked, I didn't complete my sentence earlier, but somebody in the chat asked how they can go about helping out with the beta. Join the MouseHunt Discord, where in the announcements channel, there's some info as well. And that's just kind of helps us out in the Discord. You'll be able to join a channel called, or a mobile beta channel. Like, my brain is starting to turn off from speaking for so long. And it's just kind of nice if you have any questions, concerns, or it's kind of a nice place as well. Like, hey, is this happening for anybody else? Or, it might help you submit a more detailed bug report. So it's just kind of nice to have a general chat room. And then we usually collect our bug reports through email, and that makes sure everything kind of gets a ticket number, nothing gets missed or lost in a Discord conversation somewhere. So yes, join the MouseHunt Discord. It's super easy to do if you haven't done it already. And in the announcements channel of the Discord, you'll be able to see some instructions on how to help us beta test. And we can definitely use a few more testers. All right, goodbye for real this time. Happy hunting.
Such a beautiful you. You're the master of the mausoleum. Look at me, barely at level 3. I am begging for a piece of gold. All the mice, all the terrible mice that you naturally attract to you. I wait with the trap and the bait, and they ain't biting in 1,000 years. I'm waiting on a mouse today. Anyhow, we'll be just fine. I may not be a hero, babe, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'll lay my trap by yours, and you will be my skull, and I won't care at all because I'm there. Look at you, such a beautiful you. I am caught up in the crazy game. Look at me, barely at level 3. I just know I'll never be the same. All the mice, all the terrible mice. If I had my way, I'd catch you're here.